He said, and his wife said, Jack, what are you doing in the swimming pool with the car? And he said, I'm just dipping the headlights, honey.
Well, there's more problems like that in store for our team, and the first one concerns the great comedian George Robey, who was very suspicious of theatrical landladies. He feared they'd enter his room while he was at the theatre, go through his belongings, and possibly take things. What method, do you think, oh wise men, did the resourceful Mr. Robey use to thwart this
No, not
thwart?
Not Mr. Robey. Sir George.
Sir George.
This particular man, he only had 3 fingers. So to find out if she stole things, he used to leave bowling balls in his bedroom. Another test he did with another landlady, he used to leave overcoats in the room, see if she nicked them. And of course, she would nick them, of course. Yeah. And then she made the fatal mistake, because the last one she nicked had a man in it. This landlady in, it was up in, I heard the story, in Darlington, and this...
Well, you were appearing there just the week before me.
This certain artist...
They never forgive you.
It was me then. I was coming down from my BBC audition, and I said to the landlady this particular morning, it was my youth, I said, look, I've got to be on the 6 o'clock train, so could I have my breakfast at 5? Could you give me a knock at 5:30? She said, no, I never wake up my guests. She said, you'll hear me scraping the toast. She was a lovely lady. She made me a cup of tea out of the steam iron, and I was on my way to London in no time, and of course the rest is history. That's why I'm here tonight.
I think I remember.
I'm going back.
Not only is the rest history,
George Robey.
history.
George Robey. George Robey, of course, was Prime Minister of Meath, BC, before Carson. In those days, you used to have a script on stone tablets. That's why you got the double hernia, isn't it?
I think I stayed in those digs, Ken, with that landlady, and she made a big deal on Friday. She said, there's a fish course tonight, and we all got down on Friday evening. And I said, where's the fish course? And you came in, she nailed a kipper to the dining room door and said, rub your bread on that.
The landladies used to know you, not by your name. They used to know you by your requirements. You know, you'd be the bloater and the boiled egg.
Yeah. Well, in actual fact, I remember the landlady in Newcastle on Tyne.
Newcastle on Tyne?
Yes, indeed. Old Mrs. Grimm there. And you always knew there. Mrs. Grimm, her name was. And she said to me, how did you find your steak? I said, I'm a detective.
I remember those digs. They were very good digs, actually. They'd only just been dug, hadn't they?
Diggers, dignified digs, no dogs.
I remember going up to the sitting at night, I said, I'm going up to the bathroom, and she said, have you a good memory for faces? I said, yes, why? She said, there's no mirror up there for shame.
Do you remember that morning? She came down with one stocking on, and we said, hello, roly-poly pudding tonight.
There's no towel in the bathroom. She said, hold your hands out the window and I'll dry them. Said thank God I didn't have a bath.
Sir George Robey, he was a great British comic.
Yes,
he was. And he used to have, in those days, every comic was original. They all had original songs. One of George Robey's hit songs was Pinky Ponky Poo. Yeah. And he wrote this one while sniffing at a BBC sausage roll.
And it was number 3 in the Chinese hit parade, wasn't it?
How did he find out whether this lady was taking things out of his room?
Well, I think she alarmed him because she left him a note one night and it said, please be in bed before I am. Yeah. And when he looked at it, he said, oh, I see, please be in bed before 1 a.m.
We've got some marvellous. The last theatrical digs I stayed in, we used to have scrambled egg every morning. 11 of us used to scramble for the egg.
Well, in fact, you're all very close here. Ken touched on it earlier.
He usually does, you know. We were talking about that earlier, Ken, weren't we? But not as often as you once did.
Only on a lucky night. George Robey used to have his wonderful monologue. He used to say he was going through the countryside, and he said, so I stopped, and I looked, and I listened. And the noise seemed to come from the ground. Someone said do, someone said don't. Someone said will, someone said won't. So I stopped, and I looked, and I left.
Yes, that reminds me of one that George Roper wrote.
George Robey, not George Roper.
George, yeah.
That's just a
temporary lapse of thought there, that was all.
Yeah, it's been going on about 30 minutes now.
It's been going on about 50 years.
Aye. There was a young man called Hardcastle. By a billiard ball he was struck. And on his tombstone was written Hardcastle, hard ball, hard luck.
Well, you're nearly right. Ken was closest, perhaps. George Roby had a large and inviting biscuit barrel, which he used to leave prominently displayed in his room. On the day of arrival, he would catch a fly and leave it trapped in the biscuit barrel while he went out for several hours. And if on his return the fly was no longer in the biscuit barrel, he'd know that someone had raised the lid, and he would change digs immediately, get out the biscuit barrel, and do it all over again.
And what about the fly? Did he take the fly with him, I wonder?
Well, he probably used to zip it up.
Right. Tall tale number 2. Here's a problem for you. Small-time thief Patrick Doyle plotted a more than usually ambitious coup in Kilburn, this was, in 1950. He planned to smash the window of a jeweller's shop, scoop a handful of goodies into a carrier bag, then nip smartly round the corner into a tube station before the alarm could be raised. In the event, the raid was a disaster. Where did Mr. Doyle go wrong? Bernie?
I think I met this. He's probably a relation of Frank Carson's, is he?
Yeah,
Because
It's not revealed.
I was walking through Kilburn once in 1950.
Yep.
I was in a school party.
You're a prom.
And this man ran up to me and he said, "Hello there," he said, "have you seen a policeman?" I said, "No, I haven't." He said, "Stick him up."
Well, this looks as though this fella Doyle, Paddy Doyle, who still, believe it or not, and he's out now. He got 30 years off for good behaviour. And he used an elephant in this raid. Unfortunately, an Irish policeman recognised his fingerprints. And he was able to, of course, they never caught the elephant because apparently it had a stocking over its head. So they didn't recognise it.
And there was...
Actually, he chose the wrong neighbour because he chose a very, very tough neighbourhood to do his...
Kilburn, yeah. And you're the play drafts of manhole covers.
The Avon lady's called Butch.
And any
Patrick Doyle,
any cat with a tail is a tourist.
Yeah.
Patrick Doyle's the fellow who went into a jeweller's. He said, "Have you got a choker for the wife?" So they sold him a pair of black gloves and a piece of rope.
Well, it's obvious the word small-time thief, of course. I think that's the idea, because this Patrick Doyle was the Irish small-time thief who actually broke into the house next door to gas himself.
I think this is the...
The raid was a disaster.
Yeah,
so where did he go wrong?
He broke into places and left stuff.
Used to walk into shops backwards, didn't he?
No?
I think it was his trial that made all the news. You know, when he went into... And he said to the judge, "I don't recognise this court." And the judge said, "Why?" He said, "You've had it decorated."
The judge said, "I'm going to give you 2 years for manual labour." He said, "There's no way you're going to get me into a cell with a foreigner."
When he arrived at the jeweller's was John Noakes standing outside doing a double glazing commercial.
I found out this week why Jewish people fit double glazing, you know. Yeah. So the kids can't hear the ice cream band.
This poor Patrick Doyle, he was hoisted by his own petard.
Was he?
And that's why he could never have children.
No. What was it? What?
I think
What's a petard, Mr. Frost? Petard. I mean, there's no good asking this man, because he's going to another run of gags which nobody understands. I can tell now.
If you were an ornithologist...
A what?
An ordinary ornithologist.
There's nothing... My sex life is all right. No, don't come those old gags with me. I know you're trying to get me to say something rude so you'll get some other buff in this chair next week.
If you don't know, you'd know that a petard is a bird that frequents the Lake District. It's a close relative of the great bustard, which got its name when...
And do you know how to make?
Happened to tread on a kestrel's toe.
Do you know how to make your own petard? You drop a poodle into some wet concrete.
Anyway, we don't know, Mr. Frost. We give in. We don't know, Mr. Frost. This one has beaten us, so...
I think it's something to do with the tube station was... he ran into the tube station must be involved in the answer. And there was some kind of police event going on in the tube station when he ran around the corner.
Well, it's a good try, but in fact, I mean, just to prove that true life is stranger than fiction, in fact, Mr. Doyle was simply not aware that the jeweller's window was reinforced. The brick he threw at it bounced back and knocked him unconscious. He suffered 6 stitches and a minor charge of malicious damage. So he didn't have to do his 30 years.
There you are. That's like the fellow was a pickpocket in a nudist camp.
I know a fellow, he only had one finger and he was a pickpocket. All he got was polo mints.
And he was tried by a judge who had no thumbs, and he was called Justice Fingers.
And the judge said to him, "Have you been up before me before?" He said, "I don't know what time to get up."
Right, it's time for On the Spot now, folks. This is where we put our wise men in a ghastly situation, and then we're going to find out whether you can cope. This is this week's dilemma here. You have a vivid dream, folks. You dream you're walking along Piccadilly stark naked. People are pointing and staring, but you take no notice, because to you it seems the most natural thing in the world. Then a policeman taps you on the shoulder, and you wake up. And you find that you are naked in Piccadilly and confronted by a burly policeman. What do you say to him? What do you do?
Well, I kind of screw my eyes up, I think, and just go up to him and say, "Excuse me, officer, which way to the sauna?"
That's very clever.
I'd say, I'm very sorry, officer, but I've just been mugged by Oxfam. Well, if I was really...
Well,
if I was really in the mood, I'd say, "Excuse me, officer, can you direct me to Cynthia Payne's house, please?"
Well, now, Mr. Frost asked a very serious question, I think, which
in that case, I said, "I'm sorry, Constable, I've joined the Buffs."
I would say, I've just been to see a Ken Dodd concert and my clothes wore out during the show.
It actually happened to me, this. I said to this policeman, I just woke up and I found out, and this policeman standing there, and I said to the policeman, I said, "What do you think of the suits?" He said, "I think it needs ironing."
Well, I think the practical thing to say when you'd be confronted by a policeman and you were standing there with nothing on but a smile.
Yes.
I think the first thing you say is, "Can I borrow your helmet?"
For a wee while.
Then I'd actually wear the helmet and people would think I was a policeman and say he's undercover.
You could say...
taking these sticks to be refluffed, officer.
You could say that you're looking for the nudist conference, and you say, what nudist conference? And you'd say, Expo 87. Oh, yes. You didn't expect any satire, did you?
I went to a nudist camp one time. I was doing a cabaret, actually. And when they all sat down, it was like a round of applause.
You know the audience, Frank, were they men or were they women?
Eh?
He can't tell.
I don't know. There's no clothes on, yeah.
Terrible memory, haven't you?
Yes.
You can't win with the police anyway, you know. I can just imagine a friend of mine, he woke up in the same situation without any clothes on, and this officer grabbed him and he rushed him into a tailor's shop, and he got 2 large brown paper bags, and he put a big brown paper bag on for trousers and a brown paper bag on the top, and he told him to walk outside, and he arrested him then for rustling.
I love nudist camps. I mean, I've been there. A lot of these people would say, "Oh no," like when everybody, when you think of it, you go into the world, you come into the world like that, and you go out of the world like that, don't you?
Flaunt it.
Yes, yeah. And that's the wonderful thing about nudist camp. When you're leaving, you don't have to pack.
Tell the constable you're allergic to clothing.
Yeah.
I was at a nudist camp, and there was one man. Everybody was naked. There was one man with a very long beard, and I said, "Why has he got the beard?" He said, "Well, somebody's got to go down the shop on Friday for the meal."
I remember the nudist camp I was in, they had a relay race, and I was second.
No, you don't.
No. Okay.
No.
I won't tell it. From that.
And the leapfrogging gags out as well. That's out as well.
What happened at the relay, Frank?
Just the relay.
I went to an orgy last week, and just because I was a few minutes late, it started without me.
I remember your nudist camp, the sports, the nudist leapfrog. I remember the one with... No, we can't do that one.
About the 2 bricks round an axe he caught her last time. You can't do those ones.
No, none of those guys. No,
I meant it in the relay race. It was dragged for 200 yards. That's because the fella grabbed my arm instead of the button.
Well, you know, pretty good advice. I think they all three got out of the quandary.
You're an MP and you're looking for the chief whip.
Well done. I think you're all judged to have escaped from that particular situation. And therefore, given your wisdom, we move on to Agony Ants. This is where our distinguished panel of wise men try and give advice to the needy in our society. First, we have to assist a husband in Edinburgh who writes, I was very pleased to find a careful and industrious woman to marry, and I look forward to a fine and ordered life. But I'm afraid my wife's tidiness has now become an obsession, and it's ruining our marriage. She shakes the doormat every time I use it, and starts washing up before I've finished scraping my plate. Is there any way out of this, he begs?
Ship Pullman is obviously eccentric. And without being this isn't a sexist remark, but a lot of women are eccentric. My wife was ironing the curtains last week. She fell off the ladder.
What about my wife ironed my socks and burnt my feet?
My wife reversed the car out of the garage, which was amazing. Half an hour earlier, I'd reversed it in.
This poor man sounds in a terror. He sounds like he should try to escape through the cat flap.
Yes. I wonder whether it's the bloke's fault, because what does it say? It says she shakes the doormat every time I use it. I mean, what's he doing on it?
See, that's another thing as well about, you know, it's like my wife saying, look at that fella next door. He kisses his wife every morning before he goes, why don't you do that? I said, I don't know the woman.
I think there's two sides to the coin here. I think this, it could be like the man that went to the marriage guidance and said, I want a divorce. And the man said, why? He said, well, it's my wife. She's very eccentric. He said, how do you mean? He said, well, she keeps pigs in the bedroom. He said, and the smell's driving me mad. And the marriage guidance said, fella, why don't you open the windows? He said, well, I'll let all my pigeons out.
This fella I knew had such a... his wife really gave him... You know, what for? What for? And he had a dog's life. He had a dog's life. As a matter of fact, he had to take out a special car insurance. Not for driving, for chasing him.
My wife is housebound. My wife is well, thank heavens she won't be listening to this because she'll be in Spain. Yeah. Thank God, you know.
You know why she's gone there, don't you?
No, yeah.
Because you clash with the wallpaper.
Well, she's housebound. She hasn't even... She even puts a potty under the cougar clock. My wife's really thick, honestly. I worship the ground that's coming to her. I had her down in Madame Tussauds and I brought her into the Chamber of Horrors. The attendant says, tell your missus to keep moving, we're stock taking.
You say you and your wife are not still together at the moment?
Nowadays, everybody gets divorced. Nobody works at marriage, you know. Like, I mean, I've been married 38 years. You know, no matter what comes or goes, me and my wife go out twice a week. And that's very important, that loving friendship, you know. If you have a nice steak, a glass of wine, a wee sherry, and after dinner mint.
Where does she go?
Well, she goes on a Tuesday, I go on a Thursday.
So basically, we don't have much hope for this couple. They've just got to try and do the best they can.
I was in a bar the other day, and there was an old man crying in the corner, and I said, something wrong, sir? He said, well, I'm 80 years old. He said, and it's my birthday today. I said, oh, but you've had no birthday cards? Oh, I got one from the person that matters, that's my wife. And she brought me this lovely suit for my birthday, and she gives me money every day, and we've only been married 5 weeks, and she's only 25. Oh, I said that, yes, and we make love 3 times a week. Well, I said, what the hell are you crying for? He said, I forget where I live.
Trouble is, of course, that people get the wrong people get mismatched, don't they? You get a little man like in front there, and he marries a woman who goes a huge and he has to kneel up in bed to see if it's breaking daylight.
Well, I think you've given some pretty good advice there.
I think we have it.
And now we move on to our last tall tale. This question concerns the BBC soccer programme Match of the Day. One section of the community, more than any other, has always complained to the BBC about this show. Who are these people who are so often offended by Match of the Day? That's apart from housewives.
Women on their honeymoon.
Women on their honeymoon, right?
Women on their honeymoon, they reckon that Ian Rush scores more times than they do.
It's definitely women. I mean, I love soccer. I said to my wife last August, is there anything you want to discuss before the football season starts?
Who are these people and why are they so offended by Match of the Day? Obviously, Manchester City supporters.
Well, we come from a very, very big sporting family. I used to be a half-back at Twickenham. I used to tear the tickets up and give them half-back. In fact, I was running down the wing once at Twickenham and two big forwards got hold of me. They grabbed a leg each and one said to the other, make a wish. Do you remember that?
Football, it's like one of Joan Collins's marriages. 45 minutes each way and a bit of extra time if you're lucky. Providing you don't blow the whistle on her later on.
I can always remember when I knew my football days were finished. I went streaking down the right wing and the linesman overtook me.
I think it's probably the people who complain about Match of the Day, the power workers, power station workers, because at the end of Match of the Day, millions of people all over the country get up to make a cup of tea. Now, this causes a sudden surge. And if you've ever had a sudden surge, you know... You have to sit down and put your head between your knees quickly.
I had those in Spain, really.
Surges?
Oh, surges. Oh, I was in and out all day long. Yeah. Oh. And in fact, over there they call them splurges. If you want to be vulgar, you call them blurges. Unless you go on all night.
All right. Yes, that's why they call it fast food, you know. when you're eating, you have to move fast. Who are these people who are so offended by Match of the Day?
Well, I have a brother who actually wouldn't play rugby. Do you know that? He was such a weirdie. Because every time they went into a scrum, he thought they were talking about him.
Do you actually support a team?
Yes, I do. I'm a director of Colchester United. A wonderful team, yes, in the 4th Division. And,
French oysters, aren't they?
Colchester.
No, Colchester.
They're on survival next week, aren't they?
Have you... Didn't they find Shergar in the trophy room there? What, do you support a team, Bernie?
I said to our chairman, I said, what have we got on the sideboard this year? He says, polish.
I believe we're looking for a joiner there, a carpenter, because the gates are falling off.
We diversify, actually, in our family.
No,
we just diversify into all sports. I have an uncle who's a famous swimmer. He swam from Dover to Calais in 14 hours 5 minutes and back from Calais to Dover in 3 minutes 15 seconds. He got his braces caught on the pier at Dover.
Mr. Carson actually once swam to the Isle of Man from Blackpool, didn't you?
Yes, indeed.
In record time, when you're... one swam from Blackpool to the Isle of Man in record time when your pneumatic truss developed a leak.
I think sport's very important. I mean, I was playing darts with my dad today, then his head went blunt.
You're not going to get this, I don't think.
You're not saying that the people who complain about Match of the Day, because presumably we're talking about Sunday, aren't we, Sunday showing? Yeah. You're not saying anything to do with, it's not...
Sunday observance.
It's not...
No. I will tell you, because I don't think you're going to get this. The people who are so often offended by Match of the Day are deaf viewers. Their ability to lip read lets them know what the players are saying to each other, and they bombard the BBC with complaints about the bad language, because only they know about it.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I can say there is, why don't they switch the sound off?
probably done that during the last half hour, I should think.
Well, you didn't get that one, but you've done very well. You've given some very good advice to people in emotional need all over this country.
Everybody needs to be needed, don't they?
Well,
Bakers' wives love it.
Yeah. I think that's one of the lovely reasons that we are comedians, because do you remember that lovely quotation? If for one day you can make somebody else smile and let them enjoy themselves, then you've proved that your life is worthwhile. Adolf Hitler, 1943.
Well, that's all we've got time for this week. If you have any tall tales to amaze us with, or personal problems you'd like discreetly aired by these incredibly wise men, we'd love to hear from you. For now, this is David Frost saying thank you for joining us on behalf of Ken Dodd, Bernie Clifton, Frank Carson, Andrew Palmer and NELL Brennan, who devised and researched, and our producer, Edward Taylor. We hope you'll be with us again next time. It's time to pull the other one.